Okay, so first off, thanks again. Thanks for being there for us. We've got over 250 people using iMerge. It actually came out in 2001, and we called it the Activity Merge Manager. Turns out it does a lot more than merge activity, so we renamed it. We are today at version 4.18, and we are continuing to enhance iMerge on a regular basis, just like all of our products. In fact, I think we've got a new product in beta right now that'll be out early next week. Minor changes on that. We'll talk about what some of those are maybe later. But just so you know, we're always doing that. And if you check out our Facebook page or you follow us on Twitter, whenever we release a new product, you will be notified. And we couldn't have done this without you guys. Thanks for paying your software update fee, and thanks for the suggestions, because you guys make the product better. So our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about why we created iMerge, talk about some of the new things, some fun little things we've added, the ability to merge web accounts, the duplicate finder, what might be coming in iMerge 5. We're playing around with some ideas, maybe get some input there from y'all. How to get the latest version of iMerge if you don't have it, how to install it, how you can get help. There'll be a test afterwards, so you do need to pay attention. It's a group test. If you fail, we're having this again next week in the morning, and you'll have to attend that one as well. So pay attention, and then there'll be some Q&A after that. So we created iMerge why. I think why is the most important word these days. We found our customers needed a quick way to merge duplicate records in IMIS, just down and dirty. They didn't want to be bothered by multiple questions. They just wanted to merge what they couldn't. So as an end user, I can do all sorts of fun things with demographics and name and all that stuff, but I can't merge activities. I can't merge subscriptions. Can't merge financials. Can't merge certifications. And, of course, I can't merge events. And orders should be in there as well. All that stuff you can't do as an end user. And so that's why we created iMerge. So how do we do it? Well, we created a product that could do what they couldn't do. And then we've always stayed by this motto to keep it simple. Any enhancement request we get, we really want to keep it simple. We want iMerge to be a product that works and works quickly, is easy to use. We have an internal sort of saying here, customers should never have to read the manual. Ultimately, we want our product to be so intuitive that you don't need a manual. So what is it? It's iMerge, right? It's an end-user tool for merging duplicates. But it's got enough power for the geeks, and it's designed by real end users. Greg Hartigan's one of those people. He was an end user at his former job. And then Greg actually gave us a whole bunch of input, and actually he was kind of the architect for the dupe finder. So I threw this in there for him as well. So it's designed by real end users who might be a little geeky themselves. So what's new in iMerge lately? Well, we've done lots of bug fixes over the years, kind of going, hey, what's new for the last couple years? We added support for IMIS 10 when it came out, and then 15, and then 20. We allowed it to merge multi-instance tables as of November 2012. Then we added the ability to call stored procedures at 3 different intervals in March of 2013. We'll cover that as well. People needed to merge user credentials. People are creating stuff online. We need to merge those credentials and keep the most recently used. So in June of 2013, that came out. We snuck in some enhanced error reporting. So you can turn this on, and if your iMerge fails for some reason, it'll go ahead and tell us why it failed. In the past, we often needed to get a hold of your database to figure out what's up. We'll cover this as well. People like to run iMerge in batch. You can actually run iMerge in batch mode. It's pretty cool. The problem is that if it runs into a roadblock, such as a person being registered for the same meeting in both records, it stops. And if you like to feed iMerge 1,000 duplicates and go home, you have a big problem when you come back in the morning and it's stopped on the second merge. So now you can suppress those error merges. And then in April 2014, we introduced our duplicate finder to the product. So let's talk about some of those cool things. So to merge multi-instance tables, basically you go to Options and then Edit Custom Merge Fields. So there's your options. Click on Edit Custom Merge Fields. You're going to get a nice warning. because we want to tell you, hey, this was really designed for tables outside of IMUS. However, it does work really well for multi-instance tables. And go ahead, if that doesn't make sense to you, check out our user guide that's going to tell you a little bit more. A multi-instance table looks like this. Here's my specialties table. And I've got computers in there. It's one of those tables that kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet. And I can actually tell iMerge about that. And any specialties that are on the record I'm getting rid of will be moved to the record I'm keeping. But remember, you can't use it to merge regular IMUS tables, including your standard demographics. You have to use a stored procedure for that, and we'll show you how to do that and talk about where that's at. So don't try and merge your demographics. In fact, when you go into that screen in iMerge, you're not going to even find any of your demographic tables in there other than your multi-instance, because we hid them on you, because people would go put the stuff in there and it would break. So how about calling stored procedures? Well, you can call them before your pre-merge checks. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that, hey, I want this stored procedure to fire before iMerge looks at the two records. I mentioned that iMerge can or will have a problem with two records that are registered for the same event, and it'll stop. Well, what if you knew that every one of your duplicates had that same problem? You could actually have a stored procedure coded for you or code it yourself that would go out there and handle the background stuff for you. So maybe it would automatically cancel one of the events and refund the money. You could do that all with a stored procedure or a web service. And you can have this check called by iMerge. So before it even looks at it and says, hey, we got a problem, you can call a procedure that will fix what's out there. A great thing if you're going and importing a whole bunch of other records from, say, another organization and they already have dues attached to them. Maybe you want to clean that up ahead of time. You can also call it before at the beginning of the merge. So after iMerge says, yeah, this is cool, I can merge these two records. Well, what if you wanted to do something like fail a merge? So for instance, ID 102 and 103 are both Zach Brandt, but they are two different Zach Brandts. I know that sounds rare, but it is possible. And if there were two different Zach Brandts and I had a new customer service person working for me and I really didn't want them merging those two Zach Brandts, I could actually create a stored procedure that said, hey, if someone tries to merge ID 102 and 103, fail it. Another cool thing you could do is you could email customer service every time. Well, actually, that's probably done at the end, but you know, other fun things like that. How about at the end of the merge? That's actually where you could do additional fun things like email customer service. This is where you could merge demographics or even merge web accounts, which I'm going to show you in a minute. It's additional cleanup. The merge is done. Life is good. It's been successful. I need to do some extra work now. How do you get to this? Well, it's easy. On the options in iMerge, you go on down to Call Stored Procedure. Once you click on that, you will see that you get all sorts of fun things. Which stored procs do you want to call before pre-merge checks? Which one do you want to call at the beginning? And then here, we're going to head into this in a minute. How do I merge my web accounts? That's actually one we give you. And then here's the procedure to call. Some people recently have asked for the ability to call more than one stored procedure. What we did in the manual is we showed you how to code a stored procedure that can wrap multiple stored procedures into one. So you still call one. We're still keeping iMerge nice and simple, and we're showing you how to do it on your end with SQL. In the manual, the thing I told you should never have to look at, there are sample stored procedures. We give you code that will show you how to keep the oldest join date of the two merged records. We give you code that shows you how to keep the most recent paid through of two merged records. We give you code that says merge the spouse name to the record I'm keeping if it's on the record I'm getting rid of, but not the record I'm keeping. So all the code is out there. It's sample code. If you wanted to, you could copy and paste it and use it as is. Most people are going to want to change it up a little bit and things like that, but you have ultimate flexibility. You can kind of do whatever you want, including keeping the most recently used user credentials. So what's a good example? Zach here, he's been a member for years, but he always forgets his user credentials, and he always creates a new record online and then goes and registers for a meeting. I'd like to keep his old record in IMUS. You know, that's the record I'm going to keep. That's got all his event attendance. It's got all his dues, payments, and everything. The new record he just created online, all it has is that event registration. So I'm going to merge everything from the new record he just created into the old, right? But hey, wouldn't it be great if I could keep his most recently used user credentials? There might be a small chance that he would remember. So we look at his ID 200, that's his old record. His login is zbranch, and he last logged in September 10th, 2013. Obviously, I can't see his password. The record he just created online a couple months ago, well, that's ID 201. We're not doing too well with our membership drive, obviously. Login, apparently Zach is easier for him to remember than zbranch because zbranch was taken. And we can see he last logged on, and we can't see his password. Well, in iMerge, we're going to go ahead and call the CSI SP merge web account at the end of the merge, and you'll see that that's turned on right here when I run iMerge. And when I'm done merging 201 into 200, it's going to look like this. His login is now Zach. His last logged on has been moved over, and the password that he used and or created when he logged in back in May has been transferred to ID 200. So it goes ahead and it moves all of his user credentials. Here's your before. It was zbranch and this. Afterwards, ID 200 has all of this. So very powerful. It's all in iMerge. You're probably saying, how do I get that? It's easy. Back to what we talked about. Options, call stored procedure. Select at the end of the merge radio button right over here. Choose the CSI SP merge web account as a stored procedure. You will have that in your database if you are using a version of iMerge that is after this was added. I think this was added near the end of 3, but you should always use the latest. You're going to set the duplicate ID to duplicate ID, pretty straightforward. You're going to set the merge to merge to. You're going to click save. That's all you have to do. Once you've enabled this, this feature will always work. Now remember, it's always going to keep the most recently used one. So in my example, if Zach had logged on more recently with his old record, it would have kept that. It doesn't always move it. It only moves it. It only keeps the one that was used most recently. How about our error reporting? This is pretty cool. You know, we had a programmer here, and when we'd go to him and say, you know, their iMerge isn't working, he's just like, well, what were they doing? What happened? Can I get their database? And that's a lot of work. So we created a system to send the SQL code that caused the error to CSI, and optionally, you can turn it off, okay? Under your help menu, it's called Report Runtime Error. So you can turn it on or off. We'd prefer you left it on, but you can turn it off until you have an issue. You're probably wondering, hey, that's kind of scary, Doug. What's sent to CSI? Well, we get your product name, your version, your IMUS version, your SQL version, your operating system version, who you're logged in as. We get what company you're licensed to. We get the error message. We get the connection string without your password, no password sent over. We get the statement that caused the error, the update statement or whatever. We get a stack trace, which is fancy terminology for the programmer's error. And we get what time it happened. So the beauty of this, and we'll talk about this when submitting support tickets, is if you said, hey, it crashed this morning at 9, we can actually look that up and see that error in our error log. Once again, why do we do this? Well, before, we always had to ask for your database. That's expensive, right? You know, when I say expensive, it doesn't cost you anything. It costs us a lot, right? And we've got to get the database, load it up here, and then test it all out. This allows us to see the exact cause, allowing us to give you quicker support. We don't have to wait to get your database here, and thus we can keep your software update fees lower. So we want to keep those down. We really haven't raised them with the exception of adding the duplicate finder. So we're trying to keep them in check, and that's why we add things like this. It's for you, I swear. How about batch merging? You heard me mention it before. It's always had the ability to merge batches of records. Kind of a cool thing. A lot of people didn't know it. You just load a file of duplicate IDs and merge to IDs via file, load batch merge, and iMerge will take care of it. What's that look like? It looks like this. File, load batch merge file. You click that and it says, where's your file? And you've got a tab delimited list of bad IDs, tab, good ID. And then it'll go to town and merge them all. But prior to 2014, like I said, if it ran into a problem, it stopped. We have customers out there that have lots of dupes created every month, and it was frustrating for them to set it, go home for the night, come back in the morning and find out it stopped on the second record. So now what we did was we added iMerge. It'll continue on. It won't merge that record, and at the end of the night, it's going to tell you, or the end of in the morning when you get in, it's going to say, hey, I was able to merge 980 records. 20 I couldn't because of duplicate meetings or dues or things like that. And so now you can go in and address those 20 records that are troublesome records. So powerful thing for those of you doing batch merging. But wait, there's more. The duplicate finder. This is something we've wanted to add to iMerge for a long time, and we did. We incorporated the ability to find duplicates into iMerge. It cost you $0. If you were current on your software update fee, you got it. We did raise your software update fee by a whopping $100 US. Hopefully that is fair to you. This is a very powerful thing. And you're like, this is great, but where is it? Well, you get that by going to Tools, Duplicate Finder. So if I'm in iMerge, and you may already even have this, may not know about it, Tools, Duplicate Finder. And there you go. You're into it. What can it do? It can support multiple search profiles. What does that mean? Well, I can set what's the find list maximum? I don't want to go and find more than 100 dupes because it'll flip out my customer service people. I can set the list fields. What fields are shown in the dupe finder when it finds a dupe? How about my duplicate record check formula? I can create my own duplicate record check formula. We give you the default IMUS one, but you might want to come up with something cool like company, zip, phone number, and email. Who knows? There's a foreign character switch, so you can include those or not. You can strip those out. You can have a filter formula. Recently we had a client that they have dupes all over their database because they enter the individual who is the primary contact, they enter it on the company record in IMUS. Well, that shows as a dupe. So they can enter a filter formula and say, don't show those company records. I don't want them in there because they're not dupes. Well, let's say you come up with the most ultimate search profile. You can go ahead and export that and share it with your friends at NIAG or whatever. Or if you have a friend at NIAG and they have the best search profile ever, and they're like, I found the perfect search profile. I can find dupes no matter what. I'll share it with you. They can go ahead and export the profile and give it to you. You can also support known duplicates. As I said, we're going to have Greg talking a little bit. As I said, Greg was a real end user, and he had his own way of finding dupes, very powerful. And he said, you know, Doug, often there are dupes that aren't dupes. We talked about the two Zach Brandts that really aren't dupes, the 102 and 103. You can tell iMerge, the dupe finder, those aren't dupes. Don't ever bring them up again. I don't want to hear about it. I know they have the same name. I know they live on the same street, but they're not dupes. So you can actually support known dupes. It can merge on the fly. So as I cruise through my list, I can say merge it, merge it, merge it. Do it right then and then now. Or if you're impatient and don't want to wait for the 8 seconds for a merge to happen, it'll support batch merging as well. So as I find a duplicate, I can add it to the list. And then when I'm all said and done, I can say, merge all these records. It can support priority grouping. This is the most powerful, to me, the most powerful part of Duplicate Finder. Priority grouping breaks your records into groups based on when they were added to IMUS. You specify the number of days, and it allows you to find the duplicates that just occurred, as well as the old ones, and the ones that are kind of in between. So if you just ran Dupe Finder and you didn't have priority grouping on, it might find 1,000 dupes in your database. Nothing would sound more appealing to me than being tasked with figuring out which record to keep of 1,000 records. Priority grouping allows you to prioritize which records should be merged sooner rather than later. And normally those are the dupes that have just been created. The dupes that have been out there forever, they've been out there forever. You need to get to them, but it doesn't have to be today. In short, it can rock your world. Here's the picture of the profiles. I'm going to go into the product in a minute. Our profile can have a title, can have my find list maximum, the fields that I want to show, the formula I want to use for duplicate records, what foreign characters, and then which records do I want to exclude or include, by the way. It'll merge on the fly, like I said. You click the little merge button, boom, it'll merge them. Batch merging. There's to click the button, add to batch merge. Here's adding to the known duplicates. I'm making this, and there's even an export button. You could go ahead and export this all to Excel and give it to someone else and say, you figured this out on your own time. You created the dupes. They're your fault. Take it home and work on it so you can export the results. Catch your breath. Let's go into it. Here we go. Here's my dupe finder. You click Find Duplicates. And I have my priorities here, priority 1, 2, and 3. And I have my merge, add to merge, and add to known dupes. Greg, why don't you give us a brief overview here of some cool things?
Sure, Doug. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to lose a little bit of thunder here. If you're going to take away the maximize on that window, please.
Yes, sir.
And let's make that window a little bit thinner, a little bit narrower. And so we did our dry run of this demo, and so you are seeing the post adjustment version. But what Doug has on the screen right now is representative of what Duplicate Finder would look like out of the box for you. And notice in the search results that we see in the top center portion of the screen, we've got a number of different fields listed that we have specified that help us identify which direction we want the merge to perform. And we see Doug having to scroll back and forth in order to find out what information I want to do. So let's say he started off from the left-hand side and he doesn't see enough information. He needs to go all the way over to the right-hand side and see email address in order to really know where he wants to be. Well, you can resize this window, make it wider in this case, and Duplicate Finder will remember your settings from session to session. So if you close this window and then reopen it, it remembers how large you made the window. And Doug is going to prove this to us. There we go. So that way, as you open this up, if you're the person tasked with managing these duplicates, you don't have to come in here and redo your settings every time. Similarly, the left-hand pane and the right-hand pane, you can change the width of those windows as well. Doug, I'm going to have you put your cursor right in between, almost there, perfect. Exactly. Thank you. So looking at the left-hand pane, we see all of our individual duplicate results. And on the right-hand side of the listing in parentheses is a number. In this case, we see 2 next to every item. That is the number of duplicates found for that particular set of criteria. And we're working with the demo database, and it doesn't have a full contingent of data in here, and so we only see 2 next to each of them. But if there were instances of 3 duplicates found, 5 duplicates found, that number would tick up, and you would see, for example, a 5 in parentheses next to it. Let's see here. Let's go look at options, please, Doug. And down to priority grouping. I would like to reiterate, I agree with Doug that this is one of the most powerful features of the product, because in our testing, what we've discovered is that when clients run this for the first time, they usually find about 5,000 to 6,000 duplicates, and that can be pretty overwhelming, and you're asking yourself, well, where do I start? I know I can't do all of this in one day. And what priority grouping does is it allows you to separate those out into blocks and say, I want to put my top priority items first and leave the older items for later on. So here's an example of that in play. We got our initial 5,000 records. We started working on them. We know that we can't finish all of them. And so we turn on priority grouping and we say, all right, leave these priority 3 grouping items, these older items, for later. And I want to make sure that I always focus each time I open Duplicate Finder on taking care of the newest records. An example is you've got customers that log onto your website and they're trying to register for an event, they're trying to buy an item, they're trying to just log in and edit their profile, but they are unsuccessful in using their current credentials. And so as a result, they begin creating new accounts. Well, obviously, you don't want that in your database. You want to merge that into their master account. So the priority one is going to say, hey, show me all the records added, in this case, records added since May 19th that match other records added since May 19th. So what we're targeting is these users that came onto the website today and started to create 5 or 6 accounts. I say today. In this case, today is 5/19. You can adjust that threshold to fit your specific business needs, and we have 2 different options for you to ways that you can perform that. Towards the top, we see fixed days, and below it is fixed date. Fixed days looks an X number of days in the past, in this case 101, and it uses that as the threshold. Fixed date, however, allows you to specify an exact date and use that going forward. And so the reason we provide the 2 different options is because, again, think about this from a continual ongoing maintenance standpoint. You came in and worked on some duplicates today, and then you don't work on them again for, say, another 2 weeks. Well, if you're using the fixed days option, when you open it up in 2 weeks, it's going to recalculate and go 101 days back from that date that you are currently running the program. So it walks along with you and lets you maintain your business standards. Anything that I missed on this, Doug?
Nope, you did good.
Okay, so we can cancel this. And now let's go back up to options, please. Or, nope, we're going to go to view. And we're going to go to known non-duplicates. Doug mentioned this a moment ago. Oh, you know what? We'll walk through this all the way. Let's close this. And we're going to use Mr. Hickey here. We're going to say we've reviewed his record and we know that he's a known non-duplicate. And every time I run Duplicate Finder, quit showing this guy to me. I don't want to see him in my results. So Doug is going to click Add to Known Non-Duplicates. We get our verification. Now if we go up to View and Known Non-Duplicates, we can see those are the ID numbers that we just added into the list here. So if we were to rerun the search at this point, Doug, so we can close this window, rerun the Find Duplicates, we see Mr. Hickey is no longer the top item. He's been eliminated from these search results. Exactly what we expected. Towards the bottom of the pane, we see an export button. So when we run the search results, and in this case we have 504 duplicates found, if you click export, it will throw them out into a CSV file for you. And here's an example of where this would come into play. You first use Duplicate Finder. It's returning 5,000 or 6,000 duplicates, and you don't want to be the person that has to do all of that work. You export this file. You can then break it apart into smaller groupings and distribute it amongst your staff members. Let them look at each row and determine which direction a merge needs to be performed. They can track those IDs in a text file using the proper batch merge format for iMerge. Then when they're done, you can simply process that batch file through iMerge, and you've taken care of everything. You didn't have to actually sit at your desk and process them one by one. You're using the hive mind or the team to achieve that goal. Performance. We've done considerable performance testing on this, and obviously it will vary client by client and based on your hardware. But so far, what we have found is that even the heavier processed lists that have a number of records usually process in about 40 seconds at most. But most of them, for daily driver use, after you've reduced your initial 5,000 or 6,000 duplicates, it usually runs in less than 20 seconds, which is great because you don't want to sit there and click Find Duplicates and then have to walk away and come back 10 minutes later. Yes, Doug, you're reading my mind. We're expanding. We're going to look at the bottom option, called Duplicate Record Filter Formula. Those of you who are familiar with SQL, this is your where clause in a SQL statement. It's what allows you to select items in or exclude items from your search results. So if you know, for example, that you always want to exclude certain last names or certain member types, you can do that here. And we're going to run a live proof of concept for you. First thing we're going to do is look on the left-hand side, and we see that the top listings start with Hicks or Hale. In other words, they start with the last name of H. So Doug's going to type in and name dot last underscore name like tick H wildcard tick. So what we're saying is we want to exclude anybody with the last name that starts with H. He's going to save that.
You mean include it, huh?
Oh yes, you are correct. In this case, we are filtering only for the H's. Thank you for the clarification. And we see our results on the left-hand side. That is indeed what has happened. We've filtered it so that only H's are returning in the search results.
Thanks, Greg.
You are welcome.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. We'd like your input, and you can do this in an email to us. I'll give you an email address to send it to. We'd like your input on enhancing iMerge to support merging of user-defined tables and name fields in IMIS. We're still going to play by the keep it simple, silly concept, and we're not going to stop and ask you what do you want to do with each and every field. We're going to have you choose what happens on a merge. For instance, date fields, maybe you would say always keep the oldest date or always keep the newest or only move if blank on destination. Text numeric fields, move if blank on destination only. You'll set it up and it'll apply to all users. I want to point out you can do all of this right now with stored procedures. What we're sort of playing with right now with iMerge 5 is, well, would you like this in the user interface? Does the term stored procedure scare you? And would you like to be able to control this yourself without knowing SQL? So curious about your input on that. Think about it, and I'll give you an email address to send your thoughts to on that in a little bit. Okay, what you saw you loved, right? And you want it. Well, first off, figure out what version of iMerge you're running. The latest version today is 4.1.180. You'll see that in the upper left corner. If you don't see a version up here, you're probably running a really, really, really old version. So if you want to get a new one, go to our website, www.csiinc.com, and click on Login up here in the upper right corner. Enter the credentials you got when you purchased iMerge. And I'm betting you've already lost them. Just a gut feeling. In that case, email sales@csiinc.com for the fastest response. Tell them Doug sent you. That'll annoy Zach and Katie. They can also get you your product key if you've lost that as well. Now, once you're back in, log in, scroll down to our current product releases. Here you're going to see all the products you own and are current on your support with. Go find iMerge down there. Notice there's a download link, and there's documentation as well. If you want to see, maybe you don't want to put in the latest version, but you'd like to see what's in it, feel free to download the documentation, check out the release notes, see if there's anything new that makes it worth your time. Once you click on that, it's a zip file, and it's going to give you something like this. And you want to say open with, and you want to change for whatever it says to Windows Explorer. When you do that, you get a nice little screen like this. This is looking into your zip file, if you will. From there, you're going to click Extract All Files. And here's a little Doug Morris tip of the day. I like to create a directory on my hard drive called Erase Me. Erase Me means these are files I don't want. When I'm running out of space on my C drive, I can go out to that directory and just erase it all. So if I'm installing iMerge on my computer, I drop it in Erase Me, and I even put it in iMerge subdirectory of Erase Me, so I have it there. Most important, when you go to install it, right mouse click on it and do a Run as Administrator. Okay, very, very, very important. You shouldn't have any issues. Our product, like iMerge, is made to be user installable. But if you haven't upgraded in a while or it's your first time installing, you're going to need either your SA password and or an equivalent username and password. These are not IMUS passwords. They're your SQL Server administrator password or something equivalent. If I'm talking gibberish right now, no worries. Get help from your IT person or your solution provider. They can get you that information. You're also going to need your license key. You only need these two the first time you're installing or running iMerge or after an upgrade for the SA, okay? So if you've forgotten your license key, like I said, just go to sales@csiinc.com. Read the manual. The manual you saw, it's on our website. It's also installed with iMerge. So if you go on your computer right now and go under CSI Programs and go to iMerge, there's the user guide. It's right there. But if you're still stuck, feel free to email us. Our support address is csiinc.com, support@csiinc.com. The more information you can give us, the better. A screenshot speaks a bazillion words. Yesterday I said 1,000,000 words. I'm kicking it up to a bazillion. So much from a screenshot. In fact, give us lots of screenshots. Give us your login screen. Give us IMUS. We don't care. Lots of screenshots, the better. More the better. Make sure your error reporting is turned on. And let the support team know in your email, hey, this failed at 9:30 this morning Eastern time. And they'll find it in the error log and they'll see exactly what's going on. Our standard response is 2 business days. Nothing do I love more than an email directed to me saying, Doug, I submitted this almost 30 minutes ago and I still haven't heard from support. And I walked down that hall and I let them have it. Anyway, but the fact is, Greg's team likes to get up to 2 business days. He tells me they're running at about, what are you running at right now? I know he knows exactly, too.
We are running just a little bit over 1 business day.
Thank you, Greg. So we actually know how fast we're. That's how long it's going to take to turn around and get back to you. You're going to get a ticket number immediately, and that ticket is where you can communicate with us. You can email additional information. Silly questions. Here's your test. How many computers can I install iMerge on? Anybody know? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Come on, I'm trying to get Zach to, Oh, boy, he's messed up. Anybody know? Anybody know? We should give away free stuff if people raise their hand. No one's raising their hand. Oh, boy, no one wants to. Whoa, there's a hand. I saw a hand. Oh, come on, Keith. Well, Keith, go ahead and answer. Go ahead, Keith. Oh, Michael Paddock also. Man, 2 of them. Go ahead and answer if you want. Shoot it to Zach. Come on, put it in the thing. We're not unmuting you. You might say something terrible. Any number. How many you got? Oh, unlimited. Oh, perfect. As many as you want. Good. A bazillion. No, you cannot put it on a bazillion. Sorry. It is as many as you want. All right, a lot of good answers there. Why does CSI not recommend you delete records with iMerge? I'm going to answer this for you. 9 times out of 10, when that goes wrong, it's your fault. And we hate being blamed for your issues. In all seriousness, when iMerge fails deleting a record, IMUS will normally fail deleting the record. We've had numerous instances of people having triggers on their database and all sorts of terrible things. And we're happy to help you, but the fact is, if you tried to delete it in IMUS, it would fail as well. So we'd rather you just mark it for deletion and use the IMUS purge duplicates. Here's another one. Go ahead and feel free to answer this. We'll give you 3 minutes. Not 3 minutes, 3 seconds. What is the minimum customer authorization level a staff user needs to use iMerge? See. Ooh. Jeff, John, quit answering. You're an employee of CSI. You are not. It is 4. Very good. You have to be a level 4 to use iMerge. I got a great idea for an enhancement. How do I tell you about it? What email address would you use? Anybody that puts mine in loses. Just a heads up. Text Doug. No. Darn it, Keith, I never should have given you my cell. Call Doug at home on a Saturday night. All right. Email support@csiinc.com. Best way to get our request for enhancements will be received. They'll be logged. They're supposed to be looked at about once every month where we go through and we say, hey, that's a great idea, or hey, that's a wonderful idea, but that's going to be a lot of work, or no way, we're not doing that. So we look at those about every 30 days, and we'll get back to you. I will tell you I'm not through all the July requests for enhancements, so they're going to get muddled into the August ones. Are we having more events like this? How do I find out? csiinc.com/events. Zach, is that going to be where our you'll be able to download this from? Yeah. You'll be able to download this presentation. The one yesterday was even better. We'll probably give you that one. Any questions? Go ahead and fire them up right now.
So Eileen has a question. Can you run the new version on her machine and still have her users on the old version until they're ready to push it out to the rest of their users?
Unfortunately not. iMerge is a little different than, say, iEmail, and it does kick up the version in your system params table. So once you upgrade, it's going to make the other versions unstable. So you do kind of need to push them all out at once. But good idea for an enhancement request. It'd be cool if we could see if people were typing. Give it a couple more. Oh. Is going from, say, 4.03 to 4.1.18 going to be pretty basic? Yes. Laying it all on the table, the early versions of 4 we were a little embarrassed about. We did not put them out in a beta program. My developers said this version is so solid it won't be an issue, and our early versions of 4 we were a little embarrassed about. So we went from 4.0 to 4.01, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think we went to 16 versions in maybe 2 weeks. So sorry about that. But the new versions of iMerge are very stable, and if you are on an early version of 4, please upgrade. Do you need to uninstall and reinstall? You should not need to uninstall and reinstall. There were 1 or 2 releases of early versions of 4 that did require an uninstall. That should not be an issue in the latest one, so no, you should not need to do that. Is the invoice table included in the merge scripts? That's sometimes where I see ours fail. Yes, the invoice table is included. iMerge is going to look at a couple different things. Most importantly, it's going to look at events. If you have 2 people registered for the same event, and there's a balance on both of them, it cannot merge that record because it's going to be getting rid of one of those events. And so it will stop in that case. But the invoice table should most certainly be updated always. Can you please install this on the NIOG server today? Lisa, I don't think we've met. Oh, wait a minute. It says Lisa, but it's signed Michelle. Wait, everyone, I think Michelle Morgan is really Lisa Serrano. She goes by an alias. Is there a way to store different dupe record check formulas? Yes, there is. Back to this, you can have any duplicate record check formula you want in here. Here's the drop down. Notice there's the optional one in here. So you can have different duplicate record check formulas.
Yeah, and Doug, I'm going to jump in real quick. If we go to Profile, the second menu option at the top, if you were to click on New, you can see here's where we can create a brand new profile that has different settings. So you could, for example, have 7 different duplicate search profiles if you so desired. And if you go down to the bottom, Doug, towards the middle, the button where it says Default, almost there, perfect. You can see if you click on Default, what it does is Duplicate Finder looks at your IMUS database, finds what you have populated in the find list field and the duplicate record check formula, and it throws them in here for you as a way to speed up the process to so you don't have to go in and hunt all that stuff down on your own. Okay, thank you.
So how difficult is it to set up multiple stored procedures when one of them is the user credentials? That should be very easy to do. It is in the latest version of the manual, Keith. Special manual just for you. Burke, yes, bill to IDs and STIDs in the invoice table are updated, but not in the name table. Do we have a parameter list like user login that iMerge provides? You could just expand on that one a little bit and we'll come back to it. Are user-defined tables automatically computed or do they need to be selected in tools? Right now, they have to be done in a stored procedure. For any single instance user-defined table. Your multi-instance can be optionally included, but they're not automatically included. How do I delete a duplicate record check formula or rename it? Greg?
So we've got two different options that we can perform. The first would be to go, like just where you're at right now, Doug, you would go down to click on New and Edit. Right there, yep, Edit is what we want. Now we could come in here and we could edit the duplicate record check formula if we so desired. Or we could adjust the find list fields. Let's do, the find list fields is going to be an easier demo. Let's delete everything, Doug, except for the first two fields. Perfect. Click Save. And find duplicates. And so there we see it has taken our settings and put them into use. So that's the example of performing an edit on an existing profile. The other option would be, as we looked at a moment ago, you could simply create a brand new, separate, different profile that has your new formula settings.
How about change? The deleting of the name is easy, Keith, right there. Greg, I don't see a way to change the profile name.
Oh, the profile name itself? No, it's very iMerge-esque in that, as we've learned, that once you create your code, say for example in gen tables, you can't edit it. The same logic or rationale is being used here. So it would be a delete and recreate type situation.
Very iMerge-esque. I like the way you did that. Upgrading from 3.4.4 to newest version, should I uninstall old version first? We're not going to complain if you do that, but you should not have to do that. Can iMerge limit who has access to which profile, or does anyone have access to all profiles? Everyone has access to all profiles. If I want to see who's doing a merge in my pre-merge checkup. Okay, yes. Interesting question. If I want to be able to see who's using iMerge. Well, I do know that, as you may know, when I do a merge with iMerge, there is an underlying table that is updated, as well as the name log is also updated. So I'm not sure if you can track it there, but I think we might even be doing exactly what you're looking for already. In iMerge, in the user guide, I'm going to go here, and then I think, let's see, there is somewhere in here. Greg, do you remember the name of, there's a table that we store all the merges in. Do we keep the the person who did the merge? I know there is a table out here that tells you that saves every merge done, and that would be if we are not saving who did it. It is in the name log that is saved in iMerge, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Doug. I was muted earlier, and you didn't hear what I mentioned. The table in question is called CSI_merged records.
Yeah, Jeff Dong already beat. Oh no! Oh, Burke already gave it to us. All right, Burke. There's a free Captain iMerge for you.
And that table will store for you the old ID, the new ID, the username that executed it, as well as a date stamp of when that merge occurred.
Very cool. Hopefully that helps you, Felipe. Any options for phonetic algorithms, sound X's? You should be able to do all of those with the SQL formula, correct, Greg?
Yes. We aren't doing anything special, so if you can run it in SQL, Query Analyzer Management Studio, in theory, it should work. Please go ahead and test the limits of the product and get back to us if you run into any roadblocks.
Cool. Yeah, and then make sure you share that. We want that one. So come up with a good one. Felipe wants to actually stop a certain end user from merging using the pre-merge checks. Interesting concept. I don't think that's possible, but I will run it by the developers, and we'll email you back on that. I would say if you've got an end user that keeps using iMerge and you told them not to, it's probably best to just fire them. That would probably be a quicker way to handle that. You know, just a gut feel. Save us all time. Wow, a lot of good questions. Thank you guys so much. These are great. Now this one's going to be the one that probably ends up online. Okay. So, where were we? Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys spending 53 minutes with us. I hope you got something out of this. I think we're going to send a quick survey. Now Zach's looking at me. We might not. I hope we do. I'd like to know whether you found this valuable. I'd like to know if you want to be included on our future ones. We will be doing one of these for every one of our products over the next year. So, for instance, iEmail will probably do 4 or 5 of them because there's so many users of it. But hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully you learned something. I do want to say thanks. If you're still on the call, if you could just throw your hand up if you learned something new and found it worthwhile. Just raise your hand. That would be wonderful just to give us a quick overview of how that looked. Okay, cool. I'm seeing lots of hands. That makes me feel good. Wow, that's great. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Will the slide presentation itself be available? Keith, for you, I will make it available, but you have to promise not to rebrand it with your own, all right? So we will make that available. Thanks, you guys.